All I can do is sit and think and wait. Wait for the floors to lift and the walls to crash. Facts. Think of facts. Yes, a journal of facts. Think how it began, why it's happening, why it's happening. Journal of facts until the walls crash in and the thick flesh. Charles Prentice, there's a fact. Chemist and fool. Fool, run away, run away, run away, run away, run away, run away. Run away from reality. War, 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 war. Run away. You mean we're going to live in this godforsaken place, Charles? Yes, Claire, I remember. You did say that. And I said, of course we're going to live here. It's ideal for my work. But we're so far away from everything, Charles. So far away from what? Your friends? My friends? All right, Charles. Whatever you say, Charles. You never disagreed with me, did you, Claire? Why, it's so quiet up here. It's almost as if we were out of this world. Yes, I remember. Young Jackson, you did say that. I like working with you. Why, up here, it's almost as if we were out of this world. Out of the world. I wanted to be out of the world. Hide until it's over. Yes. Hide until it's over. Yes. Why not? Why not? What are you going all the way up there for, Prentice? To do my work, of course. But who cares about propagating new varieties of roses at a time like this? The times have nothing to do with it. I'll do what I please. I'll do what I please. But Prentice, to leave suddenly like this, it doesn't make sense. Roses are fine in normal times, but a chemist of your ability, in times like these, certainly there's more productive work you could do. I'm not interested in your opinions. I'll do what I please. You hear me? Do what I please. Yes, sir. Everything's ready, sir. Greenhouse, all ready for you, sir. 1 week ago, Wednesday. Does the wind always blow up here, Charles? Does it always blow like that? Why? It's frightening. Mighty less frightening than the things that are happening back in the city. I suppose so. I know so. Where's that boy? Jackson. Yes, sir. The phosphates, are they ready yet? Not quite, sir. We'll get them ready. Every one of the plants. We work late tonight. Very late. Work late. And hard. That was the answer to everything. Chemist of your ability, in times like these, there certainly must be more important work than propagating roses that you could do. No, I wouldn't think of that, I told myself. Wouldn't think of that. Roses. Yes. Develop the greatest rose in the world. That would be my answer to them. While they bombed and burned, I'd develop the largest rose the world had ever known. And when the world settled down again, I'd come back and bring the rose to them. And they wouldn't care if I had run away. My plan. Why did it go wrong? Claire, why did it go wrong, Claire? Oh, dead. You're dead. They killed you. Dead, as I'll be dead. If I could only think. Why did it go wrong? Where'll I put the solution that's left over, Mr. Prentice? Yes, I do remember. That was it. Oh gosh, Mr. Prentice, I'm trying to understand, but I'm so tired. You must keep working. The only salvation is to work. What's salvation got to do with roses? Don't be impertinent. Do your work. Yes, sir. 2 cc for every plant, and be careful. Don't let any of it touch the stem. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You weren't very happy, were you, Jackson? Those were things you couldn't understand. It isn't that I don't want to work, Mr. Prentice. It's just that I'm all mixed up. These roses, why do I have to pour this stuff on them every hour on the hour? It doesn't make sense. Hormones? Sure, I know what they are. Secretions from the glands in the human body. Sure, I know what they're for. Make us grow and everything. I get it. That's what you try to do with the roses. Make them grow fast and big. But how do you know these hormones will work on plants, Mr. Prentice? And how do you know how much to give them and how big the roses will grow, Mr. Prentice? Questions. Everlasting questions. But now, I ask them, why did it go wrong? Thursday. What do I remember? Where'll I throw the hormone mix that's left over, Mr. Prentice? Oh, Mr. Prentice, I said, where'll I throw the hormone? Go away! Can't you see I'm working? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I remember. Friday. What a Friday. Friday night. Claire, is that you? Or what are you doing walking out here in the dark? You women, come back to the house. Crazy, walking around in the dark. Oh, what's the matter with you? Can't you walk? If I hadn't caught you... It's slippery. What are you talking about? It's slippery all around here. Don't talk foolishness. But it is. By George, you're right. Stand still, I'll light a match. I had some... Yes. Now we'll see what... Stop grabbing. Worms. Can't you see? Just ordinary earthworms. Night crawlers. We just walked over a few of them. Oh, you women with your fears and your squeamishness. Walk on a few worms and you make more noise and more fuss. Yes, I remember Friday night. The extra hormone solution, where'll I throw it, Mr. Prentice? Mr. Prentice, where'll I throw the extra hormone solution? Saturday. And then the night. Jackson? Jackson, where are you? Jackson, I told you to stay in the house. Jackson, where are you? It's time to feed the plants. Jackson, where are you? Claire, you startled me walking up like that. That infernal boy, where is he? Have you seen him? He's not in the house. But I told him not to go out. I told him only an hour ago that he's got to work all night. The plants must be watered every hour, on the hour. Well, why didn't you stop him? Now I'll have to go chase after him. Jackson! Jackson, are you out there? Come in! Oh? Well, what did you think it was? Thunder. It's starting to rain. Shut the door. Shut the door, I say. But the boy, if he hasn't the sense to come in out of the rain, it's just too bad. I've got enough to do with worrying about my roses without worrying about him. And don't you go after him. He'll be back. He'll come back. He'll come back. He'll come back. Saturday night. And when it was day again. Where? I'm on the couch. I fell asleep on the couch. Yes, I'll get up right away. What's the matter with you, Claire? Why should I get up? What difference does it make? The boy? He isn't back yet? Where could he be? The storm. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Have you looked in his room? Or you just came from there? Where could he have gone to all through the storm? Let's stop talking so much. Let me get up. I'll go see. Oh, must you follow me? Why didn't you wake me up? Why did you let me sleep? Oh, stop Charlesing me. Crazy young fool. So he spent the night outside. What's the difference? Teach him a lesson. No wonder he isn't back yet. Fog like this. It's as bad as night. All right. What am I supposed to do? Go wandering through the fog like a bloodhound? Like a fool? Don't worry, he'll be back. He'll be back. He'll be back. He'll be back. But You never came back, did you, Jackson? When the sun came out, and that everlasting wind came up and lifted the fog. Claire? Claire, where are you? Oh, what is it? What do you want now? The boy isn't around. I've looked everywhere. Now what? What happened back here? Look at the ground. What in the... Who plowed this ground up? Yes, certainly, it's been plowed. Can't you see? Some crazy, drunken fool plowed up the ground. But during the night, how could that be? You believe what you see, Claire, don't you? It's that boy. Yes, that Jackson went crazy, found a plow, tore up the ground, and ran away. Went out of his mind, that's it. The boy's gone crazy. Gone crazy. Gone crazy. And then, that night, that same night after I thought Jackson had gone crazy, run away, I went back to my work. Sunday night. Charles, can I speak to you? Can you please stop your work and talk to me? Haven't you lived with me enough years to know I don't like being interrupted while I'm working? You're frightened. Are you? Really? Stop it. Are you out of your mind? Right, maybe you are. That's the only way you could have lived with me all these years. Endured my selfishness, my unbelievable selfishness. Well, for 20 years, everything's for me. Now that's enough. My work, my pleasure, what I think, what I want, everything for me, nothing for anyone else. Will you shut up? The gentle little Mr. Prentice, the scientist, the good husband who never lifts his voice. Mother in heaven, you'd rather be married to a fool with a heart in him than me. I haven't got a heart. I never had a heart. It's me and no one else. And that boy could be dead out there and I don't care. And you could be dead and I don't care as long as I'm safe and doing what I want to do. Will you go away and let me get on with my work? I'm asking you for the last time to go away and let me do my work. But listen to me. You've been out here all night. I've been in the back of the house alone, and I've been listening, and I didn't want to come in here, but I had to. Charles, things I said, I meant them. For years, I meant them. All right, that doesn't matter, but I tell you this, there's something outside the house. Find out what it is, Charles. 20 years ago, I thought you were an irrational woman. I thought I'd trained you out of that irrationality. I was wrong. I'll humor you just this once, but never again. Where are those noises? At the back of the house. The lantern, hand it to me. Thank you. You're frightened. You don't have to go with me. What? What am I supposed to hear? There's nothing. Hello? Out there? Hello? Well, what now? Listen. To what? You thought you heard the wind whistling through the cracks in your brain. Come into the house. Here? Yes. Yes, I hear that. So what? Give me the lantern. If it's that boy, that crazy young fool playing practical jokes, if I get around the corner of the house and... What's going on here? Something moving. Under the ground. Yes. So dark. Can't quite make it out. What is it? I don't know. I don't know. Animal of some sort? Claire, you want me to take you back to the house? Well, go yourself. Moon will come out of the clouds, see what this is. Give you the lantern. No, I want to see. The house is back there. Turn around, go back to it. Go ahead. All right. Yes, it is something. Burrowing. If the infernal moon had come out, I'd see. There. Coming out now. I'll see what. Holes. Holes in the ground. All over. What are they? Bomb craters? That isn't possible. No, animal burrows. But what animal could make a hole 4 feet across? What animal? Claire! Where are you? Claire! So dark, I can't see you. Claire, where are you? Yes, Claire. I ran through the night looking for you. The echo of my voice is still in my ears. Looking for you. And the moon was under the clouds and I couldn't see you. I couldn't find you. And then I did. You had fallen into one of those craters, into one of those holes in the ground. I couldn't see you, but I could hear you. But which one of the holes? They were all over. Ground, pockmarked with them. I ran around in the dark. I could hear you, but couldn't find you. And then the moon. The moon. It was out again. Oh, blast the moon. Why did it come out? If it hadn't come out, I wouldn't have seen. And my head. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it, Claire. Stop it. I can still hear you. I can still see you. Your body down in that hole. As I ran towards you, suddenly I saw that something else was coming towards you. Something that glistened, wet in the moonlight. Something long and slimy. A great twisting snake. Yet not a snake. Not a snake. And the fear in me made me fall to the ground. And I saw, as I lay there, I saw the thing move toward the hole as if you weren't there. As if it were blind and couldn't see. Like a great blind worm. It was a worm. A worm 10, 20, no, 30 feet long. Crawling in fright to its home in the ground. And it moved towards you, Claire. Covered you. Crushed you. You're dead, Claire. You've been dead for 2 days. Why should I tear out of my memory all the horror of how you died? Of how young Jackson must have died? Where'll I throw the extra hormone solution, Mr. Prentice? Yes. It's very funny, isn't it, Jackson? I ran away and I was going to bring back to the world the greatest rose. But I brought back the greatest worms. The hormones you threw away soaked into the ground, and into them, hundreds of little worms burrowing under the ground, soaking into their flesh, into their life process, miraculously increasing the growth of them, until overnight they grew and grew without limit into those terrible horrors. And they're still growing. I can hear them. For the last 2 days, squirming around the house. And over it, great monstrous pieces of slimy flesh, squirming and writhing. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, burrowing under the ground. And at night, coming out of the ground, I have seen them, a sea of flesh, a sea of worms. Yes, I hear you out there, you worms. You were under the ground, and now there's no room underground for you, so you come out of the ground. The world was yours first, and now you're going to take it back again. The world for the worms. You're under the house. You're lifting it. The walls will fall and crush me, and I'll be dead. And I want to be dead. Yes, now I know why this is happening to me. I thought I could run away from the world and what is happening in the world. You hear that, you worms out there? I thought I could run away. Now, I'm very tired. Just sit here and wait. Wait for them. I know how I'll die. The walls falling, crushing. The window. Window. Something behind me. A worm at the window. Head looking in. He's crawling in. And another following. And another. They're filling the room. Worms. All around me. The worms. The worms. Around me. Worms. Covering me. Cold flesh. Wet flesh. The worms. The worms. Covering me. Worms. Flesh. The worms. The worms. I saw a month or two ago in an Italian paper that the Villa Cassana in which I had once stayed had been pulled down and that a manufactory of some sort was in process of erection on its site. There is therefore no longer any reason for refraining from writing of those things which I myself saw, or imagined I saw, in a certain room and on a certain landing of the villa in question, nor from mentioning the circumstances which followed, which may or may not, according to the opinion of the reader, throw some light on or be somehow connected with this experience. The Villa Cassana was in all ways but one a perfectly delightful house, yet, if it were standing now, nothing in the world, and I use the phrase in its literal sense, would induce me to set foot in it again, for I believe it to have been haunted in a very terrible and practical manner. Most ghosts, when all is said and done, do not do much harm. They may perhaps terrify, but the person whom they visit usually gets over their visitation. They may, on the other hand, be entirely friendly and beneficent. But the appearances in the Villa Cassana were not beneficent, and had they made their visit in a very slightly different manner, I do not suppose I should have gotten over it any more than Arthur Inglis did. The house stood on an ilex-clad hill on the Italian Riviera, looking out over the iridescent blues of that enchanted sea, which behind it rose the pale green chestnut woods that climb up the hillsides till they give place to the pines that, black in contrast with them, crown the slopes. All round it, the garden in the luxuriance of mid-spring bloomed and was fragrant, and the scent of magnolia and rose, borne on the salt freshness of the winds from the sea, flowed like a stream through the cool, vaulted rooms. On the ground floor, a broad-pillared loggia ran round three sides of the house, the top of which formed a balcony for certain rooms of the first floor. The main staircase, broad and of grey marble steps, led up from the hall to the landing outside these rooms, which were three in number, namely, 2 big sitting rooms and a bedroom arranged en suite. The latter was unoccupied. The sitting rooms were in use. From these, the main staircase was continued to the second floor, where were situated certain bedrooms, one of which I occupied, while from the other side of the first floor landing, some half-dozen steps led to another suite of rooms, where, at the time I am speaking of, Arthur Inglis, the artist, had his bedroom and studio. Thus, the landing outside my bedroom at the top of the house commanded both the landing of the first floor and also the steps that led to Inglis's rooms. Jem Stanley and his wife, finally, whose guest I was, occupied rooms in another wing of the house, where also were the servants' quarters. I arrived just in time for lunch on a brilliant noon of mid-May. The garden was shouting with color and fragrance, and not less delightful after my broiling walk up from the marina should have been the coming from the reverberating heat and blaze of the day into the marble coolness of the villa. Only, the reader has my bare word for this and nothing more, The moment I set foot in the house, I felt that something was wrong. This feeling, I may say, was quite vague, though very strong, and I remember that when I saw letters waiting for me on the table in the hall, I felt certain that the explanation was here. I was convinced that there was bad news of some sort for me. Yet when I opened them, I found no such explanation of my premonition. My correspondence all reeked of prosperity. Yet this clear miscarriage of a presentiment did not dissipate my uneasiness. In that cool, fragrant house, there was something wrong. I am at great pains to mention this because to the general view, it may explain that though I am as a rule so excellent a sleeper that the extinction of my light on getting into bed is apparently contemporaneous with being called on the following morning, I slept very badly on my first night in the Villa Casana. It may also explain the fact that when I did sleep, if it indeed was in sleep that I saw what I thought I saw, I dreamed in a very vivid and original manner. Original, that is to say, in the sense that something that, as far as I knew, had never previously entered into my consciousness, usurped it then. But since, in addition to this evil premonition, certain words and events occurring during the rest of the day might have suggested something of what I thought happened that night, it will be well to relate them. After lunch, then, I went round the house with Mrs. Stanley, and during our tour she referred, it is true, to the unoccupied bedroom on the first floor, which opened out of the room where we had lunched. We left that unoccupied, she said, because Jim and I have a charming bedroom and dressing room, as you saw, in the wing, and if we used it ourselves, we should have to turn the dining room into a dressing room and have our meals downstairs. As it is, however, we have our little flat there. Arthur Inglis has his little flat in the other passage, and I remembered, aren't I extraordinary, that you once said that the higher up you were in a house, the better you were pleased. So I put you at the top of the house instead of giving you that room. It is true that a doubt, vague as my uneasy premonition, crossed my mind at this. I did not see why Mrs. Stanley should have explained all this, if there had not been more to explain. I allow, therefore, that the thought that there was something to explain about the unoccupied bedroom was momentarily present to my mind. The second thing that may have borne on my dream was this. At dinner, the conversation turned for a moment on ghosts. Inglis, with a certainty of conviction, expressed his belief that anybody who could possibly believe in the existence of supernatural phenomena was unworthy of the name of an ass. The subject instantly dropped. As far as I can recollect, nothing else occurred or was said that could bear on what follows. We all went to bed rather early, and personally I yawned my way upstairs, feeling hideously sleepy. My room was rather hot, and I threw all the windows wide, and from without poured in the white light of the moon and the love song of many nightingales. I undressed quickly and got into bed, but though I had felt so sleepy before, I now felt extremely wide awake. But I was quite content to be awake. I did not toss or turn. I felt perfectly happy listening to the song and seeing the light. Then, it is possible, I may have gone to sleep, and what follows may have been a dream. I thought, anyhow, that after a time the nightingales ceased singing and the moon sank. I thought also that if, for some unexplained reason, I was going to lie awake all night, I might as well read, and I remembered that I had left a book in which I was interested in the dining room of the first floor. So I got out of bed, lit a candle, and went downstairs. I went into the room, saw on a side table the book I had come to look for, and then, simultaneously, saw that the door into the unoccupied bedroom was opened. A curious gray light, not of dawn nor of moonshine, came out of it, and I looked in. The bed stood just opposite the door, a big 4-poster hung with tapestry at the head. Then I saw that the grayish light of the bedroom came from the bed, or rather, from what was on the bed, for it was covered with great caterpillars, a foot or more in length, which crawled all over it. They were faintly luminous, and it was the light from them that showed me the room. Instead of the sucker feet of ordinary caterpillars, they had rows of pincers like crabs, and they moved by grasping what they lay on with their pincers, and then sliding their bodies forward. In color, these dreadful insects were yellowish gray, and they were covered with irregular lumps and swellings. There must have been hundreds of them, for they formed a sort of writhing, crawling pyramid on the bed. Occasionally, one fell off onto the floor with a soft, fleshy thud, and though the floor was of hard concrete, it yielded to the pincer feet as if it had been putty, and, crawling back, the caterpillar would mount onto the bed again to rejoin its fearful companions. They appeared to have no faces, so to speak, but at one end of them there was a mouth that opened sideways in respiration. Then, as I looked, it seemed to me as if they all suddenly became conscious of my presence. All the mouths, at any rate, were turned in my direction, and the next moment they began dropping off the bed with those soft, fleshy thuds onto the floor and wriggling towards me. For 1 second, a paralysis as of a dream was on me, but the next, I was running upstairs again to my room, and I remember feeling the cold of the marble steps on my bare feet. I rushed into my bedroom and slammed the door behind me, and then, I was certainly wide awake now, I found myself standing by my bed with the sweat of terror pouring from me. The noise of the banged door still rang in my ears, but as would have been more usual if this had been mere nightmare, the terror that had been mine when I saw those foul beasts crawling about the bed or dropping softly onto the floor did not cease then. Awake now, if dreaming before, I did not at all recover from the horror of the dream. It did not seem to me that I had dreamed, and, until dawn, I sat or stood, not daring to lie down, thinking that every rustle or movement that I had heard was the approach of the caterpillars. To them and the claws that bit into the cement, the wood of the door was child's play. Steel would not keep them out. But with the sweet and noble return of the day, the horror vanished. The nameless fear, whatever it was smoothed out and terrified me no longer. Dawn broke, hueless at first, then it grew dove-colored, then the flaming pageant of light spread over the sky. The admirable rule of the house was that everybody had breakfast where and when he pleased, and in consequence it was not till lunchtime that I met any of the other members of our party, since I had breakfast on my balcony and wrote letters and other things till lunch. In fact, I got down to that meal rather late, after the other three had begun. Between my knife and fork there was a small pill box of cardboard, and as I sat down, Inglis spoke. "Do look at that," he said. "Since you are interested in natural history, I found it crawling on my counterpane last night, and I don't know what it is." I think that before I opened the pillbox, I expected something of the sort which I found in it. Inside it, anyhow, was a small caterpillar. It was extremely active, and hurried round the box this way and that. Its feet were unlike the feet of any caterpillar I ever saw. They were like the pincers of a crab. I looked and shut the lid down again. "No, I don't know it," I said, "but it looks rather unwholesome. What are you going to do with it?" "Oh, I shall keep it," said Inglis. "It has begun to spin. I want to see what sort of a moth it turns into." I opened the book again and saw that these hurrying movements were indeed the beginning of the spinning of the web of its cocoon. Then Inglis spoke again. "It has got funny feet, too," he said. "They're like crab's pincers. What's the Latin for crab?" "Oh, yes, cancer. So, in case it is unique, let's christen it Cancer Inglisensis." Then something happened in my brain. Some momentary piecing together of all that I had seen or dreamed. Something in his words seemed to me to throw light on it all, and my own intense horror at the experience of the night before linked itself onto what he had just said. In effect, I took the box and threw it, caterpillar and all, out of the window. There was a gravel path just outside, and beyond it, a fountain playing in the basin. The box fell onto the middle of this. Inglis laughed. So the students of the occult don't like solid facts, he said. My poor caterpillar. The talk went off again at once onto other subjects, and I have only given in detail, as they happened, these trivialities in order to be sure myself that I have recorded everything that could have borne on occult subjects or on the subject of caterpillars. But at the moment when I threw the pillbox into the fountain, I lost my head. My only excuse is that, as is probably plain, the tenant of it was, in miniature, exactly what I had seen crowded onto the bed in the unoccupied room. And though the translation of those phantoms into flesh and blood, or whatever it is caterpillars are made of, ought perhaps to have relieved the horror of the night, as a matter of fact, it did nothing of the kind. It only made the crawling pyramid that covered the bed in the unoccupied room more hideously real. After lunch, we spent a lazy hour or two strolling about the garden or sitting in the loggia, and it must have been about 4 o'clock when Stanley and I started off to bathe down the path that led by the fountain into which I had thrown the pillbox. The water was shallow and clear, and at the bottom of it I saw its white remains. The water had disintegrated the cardboard, and it had become no more than a few strips and shreds of sodden paper. The center of the fountain was a marble Italian Cupid, which squirted the water out of a wineskin held under its arm, and crawling up its leg was the caterpillar. Strange and scarcely credible as it seemed, it must have survived the falling to bits of its prison and made its way to shore, and there it was, out of arm's reach, weaving and waving this way and that as it evolved its cocoon. Then, as I looked at it, it seemed to me again that, like the caterpillar I had seen last night, it saw me, and breaking out of the threads that surrounded it, it crawled down the marble leg of the Cupid and began swimming like a snake across the water of the fountain towards me. It came with extraordinary speed. The fact of a caterpillar being able to swim was new to me, and in another moment was crawling up the marble lip of the basin. Just then Inglis joined us. "Why, if it isn't that old cancer Ingliscensis again," he said, catching sight of the beast. "What a tearing hurry it is in!" We were standing side by side on the path, and when the caterpillar had advanced to within about a yard of us, it stopped and began waving again, as if in doubt as to the direction in which it should go. Then it appeared to make up its mind, and crawled onto Inglis's shoe. "It likes me best," he said, "but I don't really know that I like it. And as it won't drown, I think perhaps—" He shook it off his shoe onto the gravel path and trod on it. All afternoon, the air got heavier and heavier with the sirocco that was without doubt coming up from the south. And that night, again, I went up to bed feeling very sleepy. But below my drowsiness, so to speak, there was the consciousness, stronger than before, that there was something wrong in the house, that something dangerous was close at hand. But I fell asleep at once, and, how long after, I do not know, either woke or dreamed I awoke, feeling that I must get up at once, or I should be too late. Then, dreaming or awake, I lay and fought this fear, telling myself that I was but the prey of my own nerves, disordered by sirocco and what-not, and at the same time quite clearly knowing in another part of my mind, so to speak, that every moment's delay added to the danger. At last, this second feeling became irresistible, and I put on coat and trousers and went out of my room onto the landing. And then I saw that I had already delayed too long, and that I was now too late. The whole of the landing of the first floor below was invisible under the swarm of caterpillars that crawled there. The folding doors into the sitting room from which opened the bedroom where I had seen them last night were shut, but they were squeezing through the cracks of it and dropping one by one through the keyhole, elongating themselves into mere string as they passed, and growing fat and lumpy again on emerging. Some, as if exploring, were nosing about the steps into the passage at the end of which were Inglis's rooms. Others were crawling on the lowest steps of the staircase that led up to where I stood. The landing, however, was completely covered with them. I was cut off. And of the frozen horror that seized me when I saw that, I can give no idea in words. Then, at last, a general movement began to take place, and they grew thicker on the steps that led to Inglis's room. Gradually, like some hideous tide of flesh, they advanced along the passage, and I saw the foremost, visible by the pale green luminescence that came from them, reach his door. Again and again I tried to shout and warn him in terror all the time that they would turn at the sound of my voice and mount my stair instead, but for all my efforts, I felt that no sound came from my throat. They crawled along the hinge crack of his door, passing through as they had done before, and still I stood there, making impotent efforts to shout to him, to bid him escape while there was time. At last, the passage was completely empty. They had all gone, and that moment I was conscious for the first time of the cold of the marble landing on which I stood barefooted. The dawn was just beginning to break in the eastern sky. 6 months after, I met Mrs. Stanley in a country house in England. We talked on many subjects, and at last she said, "I don't think I've seen you since I got that dreadful news about Arthur Inglis a month ago." "I haven't heard," said I. "No? He has got cancer. They don't even advise an operation, for there is no hope of a cure. He is riddled with it, the doctors say." Now, during all these 6 months, I do not think a day had passed on which I had not had in my mind the dreams, or whatever you like to call them, which I had seen in the Villa Cassana. "It is awful, is it not?" she continued. "And I feel, I can't help feeling, that he may have—" "Caught it at the villa?" I asked. She looked at me in blank surprise. "Why did you say that?" she asked. "How did you know?" Then she told me. In the unoccupied bedroom a year before, there had been a fatal case of cancer. She had, of course, taken the best advice and had been told that the utmost dictates of prudence would be obeyed so long as she did not put anybody to sleep in the room, which had also been thoroughly disinfected and newly whitewashed and painted. But